the the looks, money, status, aristocracy. So Michel Houellebecq has something that he says in his book, Serotonin, I believe, which came out in 2016, I think, 2016, 17. In Serotonin, Houellebecq has a passage where he explains sort of the fact that the world has reverted back to the 18th century. So in the 18th century, you had something that sort of was the aristocracy at the time, which had all the access to free sex, all the access to hooking up, free sex, unlimited sexuality, because they were the aristocracy, they were the elite, they controlled everything. And Houellebecq is basically saying that we have reverted back to that. We've recreated the same system in the modern age under what the manosphere calls looks, money, status. Basically, the only people who have access to that kind of acceptable, normal, and you could even say enjoyable sexuality is people who have either looks or money or status, or all three of them. Those are the people, and it's sort of the aristocracy. That's the way the aristocracy functioned back then. It's either you had money or you had control of something. You were the elite, basically. And for about 200 years, you could say roughly, we had sort of a middle class sexuality system, where everybody could get something, because it was more of a monogamous system where guys could actually get married, and the state encouraged family formation, and everybody had access. Most people had access. The majority of people, we could meet someone and get married. Today, what we've done is we've created an elite-based system where only some guys will actually have access to sexuality. That's what we've done. And it sort of happened all across the world, but mainly in developed countries where there's a high degree of automation, where the labor force is mostly a tertiary labor force with people working in office environments, customer service, administrative, things like that. And the majority of people don't work in factories or manufacturing as they used to. So as we've automated the labor system, by and large, in those developed countries, it's affected everybody on a sociological level. Essentially what that means is that there's no longer a need to get together and create families anymore, by and large, for most people, unless you're making a certain amount of money where forming a family is economically viable. Then it makes no sense to do it. And I've said before, you can explain most things. There's not many things that cannot be explained by economics. Most things can be explained if you have an economic model where you basically ask the question, like, what is the cost? And it's not just it's not economic strictly from a supply and demand point of view. It's like economic from a physics point of view. Like, what is the cost? What is the energy required? And how much does it cost? And how much energy do I have to devote? Do I have to burn for this thing to work? Right? Energy, as you know, in the modern day, equals time worked. So the amount of time that I work is going to dictate how much money I'm going to earn, which is basically how much energy I can use, how much energy I can deploy. Basically, I made X amount of money, and that's going to allow me to buy certain things, to go certain places, to have access to things, and that's the energy being deployed. So most things can be analyzed from that angle. It is sort of an economic model of me saying how much money are we going to have to spend on this item, which is how much energy does this require. And so you can analyze what's happening in society in the dating market by basically by analyzing what happened to the labor force, to the economy, and because that informs how much work people are willing to do for something and their perception of what they can or cannot get. Right? If you know that it is expensive to get something, or if it's actually like, if you expect something better than what you have, and your perception is that, oh, I deserve better than such and such, then your standards are gonna go up, and it's gonna change your behavior because it changes your expectations. Okay? And so my theory, my argument, the point that I'm making is that the change in the labor force, the automation of a lot of the work has been the primary change. I don't think it's been ideology. Like some guys will say, oh, it was feminism. I don't think that was the key driver, because again, that's an ideology. If you wanted to analyze it from a Marxist point of view, you would say that the material forces at play are the number one driver, right? The material reasons, like what's actually happening physically in the world, that would be the main driver. It wouldn't be some ideology. The ideology can be there, but the ideology is not going to replace material forces. Okay, if you're in a country and there's plenty of resources and there's plenty of food and there's plenty of everything, that's going to dictate things. The ideology is secondary. Sometimes the ideology can be primary, but that would require that the conditions are there for you to just go and apply the effort towards it. Okay? It would require that. If the conditions are not there, it doesn't matter how much of an activist you are. Oh, I'm a major activist. Doesn't matter. Oh, I want to make this happen. Doesn't matter. Oh, I'm gonna campaign for this or that. Doesn't matter. The only thing that matters, the primary thing that matters, is do you have all the conditions in place for that to be possible? Okay, so yeah, that's sort of my theory of the dating marketplace, is the automation of the labor force, which has created a tertiary an economy that's primarily centered around tertiary activity, office work, which means that since it's office work, it doesn't require physical force. That means that women can, in large numbers, enter the workplace. So now that they can enter the workplace, they can make their own money. But also you have technology, social media, and the internet that gives them access to more options. So now that they have the money, but now they also have a perception that they can do better based on the options, even though the options might be completely false, might be completely out of reach. doesn't matter. As long as they perceive that it's there, that's going to change the expectation. It's quite interesting. From Houellebecq's perspective, it is the recreation of the aristocracy, the 18th century aristocracy. That's what we've done. We've done that 300 years later. We created that. It's good to think about.